Ah, Silent Hill, a well-known series in the horror genre, originally releasing in 1999. We will be tackling the remake of the 2001 release Silent Hill 2. Now, being my very first Silent Hill game, I was going into this not knowing what to think. And with a total of 44 trophies required for the plat, I couldn't wait to get stuck into the spine-chilling atmosphere that this game has to offer, especially the fact that there are 6 different endings to this game, all having a trophy tied to them. I had my work cut out for me. So let's not waste any more time. Welcome to Silent Hill 2's Platinum Playthrough. We start off the game with our main protagonist, Mr. James Sunderland, who has arrived at Silent Hill in search of his wife Mary, after receiving a letter with her name on it. Struggling to believe that it's from her since she supposedly died from a disease 3 years back, the letter does mention of a special place that James promised to bring Mary back to again. Hoping this wasn't some sort of a ruse, James heads towards Silent Hill hoping to find her. Ending up in this graveyard, we see a woman called Angela looking at one of the graves. Yeah, I'd have the same reaction if someone did that to me. Asking her for directions to Silent Hill, she points the way we should go, but also warns us that the town isn't what it used to be. But James insists on pressing onwards. Now, she's one of the many characters that you'll come across with all their own hidden stories that we will learn over the course of the game, some a lot more dark than the others. We arrive at Silent Hill and pop our first story trophy of the game, enjoy your stay. Turns out this town isn't completely deserted, since it's filled with these creatures who, as expected, aren't friendly. So, channeling our inner Negan, James rips this spike plank off the window, and we batter the hell out of whatever this thing is. Now, with the many combat trophies that the game has, I do recommend meleeing every enemy you come across. That way you'll be closer to getting those trophies later down the line. So this first main area teaches you about exploration and finding many key items that will help you with solving some of the puzzles needed to progress. Like finding this vinyl glue that can be used to glue both these vinyl pieces together once you find them, then deciding to stick James's hand into this hole, because why not, since it ain't my hand going in there, in which we find a button for the jukebox. We then place all these pieces into place, in which it plays a song which James seems to recognize. And as we can see from this sort of flashback, this means that Rosewater Park is our next location we must head to. But we do have to make our way through the Woodside Apartments first, which unlocks the Nice and Cozy trophy as we enter. Now, a common thing about the areas in this game is that you'll end up in a place like this, where after finding a map, and yes, I was not expecting so many rooms to check, it will show you the many floors of various rooms that we have to search through. On the ground floor, there will always be some sort of puzzle box that you'll end up finding the pieces throughout the building. So it's just a case of fully searching every single room to progress the story. And as you guessed it, we aren't alone either. Especially being introduced to whatever these things are. Hey, they may be quick, but I'm definitely a lot quicker. They are quite shifty though, as they like to hide under tables to try and get the jump on me. 9 times out of 10 it works. A little bit further on, we do spot a key on the floor. Only centimeters away from grabbing it, this little brat kicks it away, which just hurts James's feelings. And not just his hand. Bit weird for a little girl to be running around with all these creatures lurking about, especially with all these locked doors everywhere. Good thing I checked 50 of them, because you never know what you might find behind them. We do manage to make our way and grab that key this time, whilst being watched by a certain someone. Good thing we find this gun though, now I feel a bit more protected. But I choose to use my bullets in a more beneficial way, since you actually get a trophy for popping these balloons that say welcome home. So that puzzle box that we saw at the very start of this area, it's missing 3 coin items, each being somewhere inside the apartments. The first inside this creepy looking room. After figuring out the combination to this safe with some amazing puzzle solving skills from yours truly, we find the man coin inside. But before finding the other 2 coins, we enter this room and find this dead guy half stuffed into a fridge, whilst also hearing some sort of crying in the background. That appears to be this guy called Eddie, huddled in this bathroom puking his guts up, as he pleads to James that he did not harm the fridge man. Hey, with our own agenda to handle, we advise him to get out of town as soon as possible as we leave him be. We quickly managed to find both the snake coin, which was tucked into this pram, and then the woman coin, the third and final one, which was stuck inside this rubbish chute as we clear it out and collect it. Now, with all 3 coins, we are then able to figure out this riddle box and obtain a key to room 201. The room itself looks well kept, unlike the previous ones we've seen. James sees his handkerchief and picks it up, but immediately gets interrupted. Oh! Luckily, Pyramid Head chooses to leave us alone and heads through that mysterious looking red door. Why don't we follow him, shall we? Oh, otherworldly. Wait, was this the upside down? Or enter the other world for the first time? That's right past me. There is a much darker looking world, mirroring the real world that we'll be stepping into multiple times throughout this playthrough. Now, these worlds are built up on the emotional state of the character, so with James's mind being all over the place, believing whether Mary is alive or not, and all the shit that's been happening so far, the world is portrayed in this very rustic and depressing looking place. And as usual, more fun-loving creatures looking to hurt us. But I hurt them instead. And luckily I meleeed 75 enemies by this point and popped the blunt force trauma trophy. You thought they were bad? Well, we managed to run into Pyramid Head again, but this time it won't be as easy as when we hid from him earlier, since he actually wants to kill us this time. Now, of course, it wouldn't be a boss fight without me dying to him without actually knowing what to do to damage him, since the bullets didn't really seem like they were doing much. Turns out this is a timed segment, so all you need to do is just survive long enough for an alarm to sound, which that would then distract Pyramid Head and it makes him leave. Oh, thanks for opening the door for us, bud. Also popping the pass trophy for completing the Blue Creek apartments, which meant that we had now returned to the real world. Now with a clearer path to Rosewater Park, we head on as we spot the young girl from earlier holding a letter. Curious on why she is out here and what the letter says, she gets spooked as she mentions Mary's name before running away. Huh, how does she know our wife's name? Finally reaching the park, we meet who at first we thought was Mary, but it's actually someone called Maria. Yeah, that won't get confusing at all. She acts very flirty around James and wants to show us another special place that Mary could be at, since this place wasn't the correct one. But she insists on showing James the way. Not so sure I can trust her, but hey, at least I get a trophy for meeting her. Now, that place being a strip club called Heaven's Night, which Maria owns the keys to. Attempting to, soften James up with a drink, he stays loyal to Mary and refuses Maria's advances, since we know what she's trying to accomplish. She doesn't take it too personally as she shows us a different park which wasn't too far. But as expected, we have no luck here either. We do hear a faint scream in the distance, which at first I thought that may have been Mary, but it was actually the little girl, who seems to be catching a late night viewing at the cinema, along with the company of Eddie. This time he seems a lot shiftier and more emotionless, but seeing that the little girl knows our wife's name, we leave Eddie be and choose to try and track her down. And of course, she runs into this place called Brookhaven Hospital. Getting the trophy admitted for reaching the hospital, I was not looking forward to this place. I feel like hospitals are just creepy by default. At least we have Maria to keep us company, as we restore the power to the elevators so that we can reach the higher floors. Unfortunately, Maria starts acting very weird as she claims it might be because of a hangover, but I sincerely doubt that. So we let her rest as we check out the rest of the wards by ourselves. So with a new area is expected to encounter some more enemy types like these lethal nurses who do pack a punch if you're not careful, but taking them one-on-one makes it a lot easier, so at least we don't have to worry about anyone else. I mean, I don't have a map. Oh! Oh! Mate, you can't be doing that to me. I don't do well with jump scares like that. Pyramid Head does somewhat help us since we crashed down to the 3rd floor that we couldn't access earlier. In doing so, finding the little girl called Laura. We ask her how she knows Mary, and she says that she met her at the hospital, but only a year ago. Not adding up since she supposedly died 3 years ago. James calls her a liar and spooks her. Yeah, good job there, mate. She gets one up on us as she traps us and proceeds to glow. Okay, Laura, that may have hurt my feelings. And looks like we ain't alone in here. Yeah, this grotesque looking thing is called the Flesh Lip. Yeah, the gross name matches the appearance. This thing climbs around in the ceiling before jumping down to swing some attacks at me. I return the favor with my shotgun and metal pipe, making him jump down to then have a different set of attacks, which aren't too hard to dodge either. It's not a particularly difficult boss fight since I very quickly managed to kill it, before then being dragged away by another, which also popped the Nightmare Fuel trophy for killing it. Somehow we get brought into the other world for a second time, so looks like we'll have to focus on escaping this place before trying to find Laura again. You can tell I didn't like it here since I couldn't stop smashing the place up, but at least I got the shatter trophy for breaking 50 windows, so it was worth doing. We did manage to run into Maria again, in which we calm her down so we can continue looking for Laura, but we can't stay calm for long as we get hunted and chased down by Pyramid Head. Of course, you can't have a classic chase scene without an overdramatic trip over nothing, and this does cost her as being unable to open the elevator, Maria gets impaled by the pyramid prick and pulls her away. Yeah, my reaction sums up this entire thing. Oh, thanks game for reminding me. Before we make our exit, we do spot Laura running away in the background, and as you probably noticed, we are still stuck in the other world, with no Misty Silent Hill in sight. Someone should really turn the lights back on. Hey, at least there's some leftovers for us. You know, seeing the death of a friend really kicks up James's appetite. We make it to the historical facility, and as James brushes up on the history of the town, then making his way down this never-ending set of stairs into darkness. Yes, this took over a minute to get to the bottom, but at least we get the Into the Abyss trophy for doing so. We then decide to jump into this hole because, you know, why not? In which we end up in our next area being the Toluca prison. Great, a prison. If hospitals weren't scary enough. We do bump into Eddie again, who seems to be dealing with his own psychotic problems. I'm gonna just back away from him now that he has a gun. Now, our main goal throughout this prison is to find a number of weights, which helps us to access the next area upon then finding more, which then just repeats the process. I do manage to find the armory key along the way, which awards me with this brand new hunting rifle, which I know is going to pack some huge damage. Now, because this is the final weapon you get in the game, I managed to get the James of all trades trophy for getting a kill with all 5 weapons. Eventually making it out of the prison, we end up in this labyrinth-like area, and by the looks of it, we are back in the other world. Yep, we just love this place. And so does Angela, as we find her terrified and talking to herself. Well, I thought that at first, but apparently we weren't alone in the room. So, to sum up Angela's story in the least disgusting way I can, this creature is called the Abstract Daddy, which is Angela's dad to be precise. She was abused by her father when she was younger, which resulted in her stabbing him to death. This is why we found her in the graveyard looking for her mother, since that's all the family that she has left, and then back in the Woodside apartment holding that knife. Yeah, I don't need to explain her intentions with that. So with the help of James, the Abstract Daddy focuses its attention on us, meaning we can put him down and hopefully ease this trauma for Angela. She does her part though, which is fully deserved, and we get the unforgivable trophy for killing it. Leaving her to go find her mother, we actually run into someone that I was not expecting to see.
Maria, I thought that thing killed you. Are you hurt?
Not at all, silly.
Yeah, Maria had no memory of what happened. Then she starts listing off things that they supposedly did together, acting like Mary never existed. Now, her story is much more complicated to explain, and it would also mean me spoiling some endgame events, so I'll avoid those parts for the moment as we can continue. This contraption spawns, which allows us to shift this massive cube to allow us to access the next few areas. These 3 areas being the rotten, desolate and ruined areas. Now, although not much in the terms of story-wise happens here, I do manage to check a few trophies off. So the first being the No Big Deal trophy for killing 75 enemies with ranged weapons, then the Mercer's trophy for stomping 50 enemies, then after bumping into old Pyramid Head again, we enter his room, which unlocks the Inner Sanctum trophy. May have spent a bit too long in there reading that trophy. Wait, find his room? Wait, this is his room. Is he going to kill me? Is he going to come through this door? Oh, he is! I'm sorry! We eventually get back to Maria, but we find her laying dead on her bed with her cell bars pulled apart, as if something broke its way in to kill her, which is very weird since when we leave we actually find the cube contraption smashed to pieces with Pyramid Head's blade left amongst the rubble. We managed to pull it from the rubble like some Excalibur type shit and approach this creepy ass looking hallway. The sword allows us to make our way through to find Eddie once again, stepping into his version of the other world. His story is that he got bullied and verbally abused as a kid because of his appearance and his weight, and this is why there have always been corpses lying around whenever we have run into Eddie. Considering that he is still holding the gun and even unloading some bullets on an already deceased body, James tries to get him to relax, which only makes Eddie angrier and portraying James as just like all the others. This then results in him wanting to kill us, which starts up another boss fight. With the room filled with steam and lots of hanging animal carcasses, we can use them to block the shots from Eddie, allowing us to get a few shots off ourselves. But the room does get progressively steamier with each phase of the fight, to the point where you almost can't see anything. Again, it's not a particularly hard boss fight, so we land the last shot on him as he falls to the ground. That being the end of Eddie, and with James not being able to process what he's just done, since this was the first time that he has technically killed an actual person, we get the trophy a human being for doing so. We then take an annoyingly long boat ride across the lake where we end up at the Lakeview Hotel, this being the final main area of the game, also getting the Glimmer of Hope trophy too for visiting it. Inside we do find Laura again practicing her piano skills. This time she acts a lot friendlier with James since she reckons that we've had enough for now. So to sum up Laura's story, she met Mary in the hospital and befriended her since she is an orphan and saw Mary as a mother figure. She's also the only innocent character in the game with no dark backstory, which is why she doesn't see any of the creatures and monsters that we have seen. She hands over the letter and it's basically a goodbye letter to Laura, but being a child, she mistook Mary's words of being in a quiet, beautiful place as Silent Hill. She also has a second envelope with James's name on it, but it appears to be empty. That panics her since she thinks that she lost the letter, so she goes off to find it. Eventually, after figuring out the code to this locked briefcase and then finding the elevator key inside, the game decides to switch things up a bit. So with all of the weapons and items that James has on himself, it means he is too heavy to use the elevator, meaning the next area, which are filled with more of these creatures, you must do it with absolutely nothing on your person. Definitely a unique way of spicing up the gameplay, but good thing we find some bread down here to help us, because you know, it's bread. Now, with having all 3 figurines at this point, you are now able to solve the music box puzzle, then grabbing the 3rd floor key, meaning we now have access to the room where Mary is waiting for us. Getting the truly special trophy for reaching room 312, she is nowhere to be seen, apart from this tape player, which after inserting the tape that we found earlier, we actually get to see the truth of what happened to Mary.
Promise you'll take me again, James.
Wait, what? Yeah, it turns out James had killed her this entire time, but he repressed the memory from the beginning. It was too much of a burden for James to look after Mary, since she had been diagnosed with an incurable terminal disease. And because she was too ill to do any of the things that they planned to do in their life, like to revisit the hotel and then the want to have children, the burden drove him to smothering her in her sleep. Yeah, I definitely didn't see that towards the end of the game. With Laura also finding out what happened to her, she doesn't believe it, calling him a liar and then running off in tears. As time passes by, we now end up in the other world once more. But instead of being the rustic and torn apart other world that we know about, this version of the hotel is looking more burnt, since the hotel was actually set alight shortly after James and Mary had left. Eventually making it to the main lobby, we actually find Maria again, this time with 2 pyramid heads either side of her. So the 2 of them represent James's guilt and lust for punishment, making sure that he remembers all of his past actions, since at the start, he had no memory of killing Mary, but now that he has accepted it, the pyramid heads have no use. So what's worse than a boss fight with just one pyramid head? Yep, you guessed it, it's time to face both of them. Now, as long as you keep your distance and your shots on target, this fight can be pretty easy, since they very rarely try to hit you at the same time. I had also saved up a lot of ammo by this point, so I had no issue with unloading as much firepower as I had onto them. This then resulted in both of them impaling themselves on their spears, killing the 2 and then popping the obsolete trophy. Making our way up to the very top of this place, weirdly we find Mary for the first time, but alive and healthy. Trying to make it seem like everything is okay, James has realized his actions and accepts her death, believing that this isn't the real Mary. In fact, this was Maria the entire time, a negative being that has been trapped in James's mind this entire game, hence why we've seen her die a few times and then come back. This then reveals her true nightmare form and thus the final boss fight. Having 3 different phases of both range and close combat attacks, my hunting rifle was my best friend throughout this fight. Wasn't the cleanest of fights though, since I did manage to take a bit of a beating at some moments, but I was able to pump this final version of Maria with plenty of lead, putting her down into a critical state and then ending her with one final shot, popping the trophy That Part of Me. We then see James and Mary, the real Mary this time, and as James admits all of his hatred and feelings towards her since the illness had ruined both of their lives. Then catching back up with Laura, the 2 of them leave Silent Hill for good, unlocking the first trophy out of 6 different endings you can get for this game, making peace. Luckily, this was the most common ending to get, so I feel like I did a good job. I'm not looking forward to those other 5 endings though. Now, with over half of the trophies done in my first playthrough, I was feeling pretty confident about the rest of the clear up. We only had a few missable trophies to get, then everything else was pretty much replaying the game again and aiming for the different endings, with a few challenge specific runs too, and also clearing up all the collectibles. So let's begin with the missable trophies, and the first one is pretty damn easy, because as soon as you start a new game, instead of going forward, you simply need to leave the way you came, which unlocks the No Turning Back Now trophy. Now, during the first time you're running around with Maria, you'll enter the room 106 at Jack's Inn. Nothing can be done here at the moment, but if you return to this room after the Brookhaven Hospital section while still in the other world, you can see this torn wallpaper at the back of the bed. If you interact with it, you'll get the trophy All Seems in Order. Apparently it's an Easter egg towards Silent Hill 3, but obviously not playing it, I didn't know that at the time, so I was happy with the trophy. Then for the 3rd and final missable trophy that I can get, as boring as it sounds, you have to sit in the boat over Toluca Lake for 10 minutes. So I went to make myself a sandwich and then came back to unlock the Scourge of Toluca Lake trophy shortly after. Now onto the collectibles, 3 different types being the echoes, the memos, and then all the strange photographs. Altogether there are 120 of them, which to me it doesn't seem like a massive amount, but the one annoying part of it is that you must collect all of each type in a single playthrough. So if I missed only one, I'd have to restart the entire thing. What a ball ache that would have been. So making sure I picked up every single one, I got the Echoes trophy for finding all of them first. Then after that, I got the Archivist trophy for finding all of the memos. Then right before the final boss, I picked up the final photograph, unlocking the 3rd and final collectible trophy, Pieces Unarranged. Next up are the 3 different challenge-based trophies that are required, and I chose to do them all in one playthrough because why not? Let's make it even more difficult for myself. So remember that radio that we found at the start of the game? Yeah, that's basically our way of knowing if there are enemies nearby, but we aren't allowed to use it. Then I have to play the entire game without using any ranged weapons, meaning I could only stick to melee. Then for the 3rd challenge, I have to do all of this and complete the game in under 10 hours. Sounds quite scary, right? Honestly though, it's pretty easy to do. By now I would have learned most of the regular enemies' attack patterns, so dodging them was a simple task. Then for the bosses, it was just as easy as hitting them a couple times, then dodging and repeating the process. I also saved up a ton of heals for some of the later fights, so I had no issues with dying at all. Making it to the final boss fight and then defeating her for a 2nd time, I managed to unlock all 3 of those trophies, meaning I had saved myself a ton of time with completing the challenge runs in one single playthrough. I was quite pleased with myself. Now onto the final chunk of this platinum, that being the multiple endings. Now with 6 to do, you may think, damn, that's a lot of playthroughs to get through, but there is a much easier way to get these done. With 3 tied to the main game and then the other 3 only obtainable in the New Game Plus, you have to interact with certain points throughout the game to get the ending that you want. So during that last playthrough, I chose to go for the Maria ending, meaning I have to do things like protecting Maria throughout the entire game and then choosing certain items that you use over others, like the ripe apple instead of the rotten apple in the mirror puzzle. There are a ton of other points that I could cover, but they're quite long, so I'll just move on to the ending. Once you reach the ending, you'll see that James has accepted Mary's death and moved on pretty quickly, as both him and Maria choose to leave Silent Hill together, not before she starts coughing all of a sudden. That's a very Mary-like cough you've got there, but we won't worry about that at the moment, since the game ends and the Vicious Circle trophy pops. Now, on to the 3rd and final playthrough, but that's weird since I've got 4 endings left. Well, that's where we can cheese the game a bit. So we move on to New Game Plus so we can achieve those 3 endings, but I grabbed the last main story ending at the same time. Right at the beginning of the game, you can find this chainsaw that unlocks the last missable trophy, Lumberjack. Had I known this was a thing, I would have used it for my melee only run. Then throughout the New Game Plus run, you'll find these new items scattered around the world that all tie into the 3 endings. So for one of them, you'll find these 2 dog parts which form to make a dog key. Then there is a door at the end before you reach room 312 which unlocks the dog ending.
Fuck ass shit.
Giving us the trophy I Saw That Town for completing New Game Plus, and then the Goodest Boy trophy for that ending. Then since I made a save before that, I was then able to get the rest of the endings without having to replay the entire game. Going for the UFO ending next, I used this amulet looking object in the last of the 4 locations, that being Mary's room, which activated an even weirder ending than the dog one. As I said, very weird, but we get the tinfoil hat trophy shortly after. Then for the rebirth ending, which by picking up these 4 objects during the run, and then killing the final boss again, we activate it as it shows James taking a much darker path as he wants to use those 4 objects to resurrect Mary. Then with the Defy Even Death trophy shortly unlocking after that. Now for the final ending, which isn't tied to New Game Plus, but can still be unlocked during it. This ending though, we see James driving away. Not being able to live with the choices that he has made, he decides to join Mary as he drowns the car and himself in Toluca Lake as we see the letter sinking to the depths below. We get the Only Way Out trophy for that ending, whilst also unlocking the final trophy needed for the platinum, Party Like It's 2001, for unlocking all of the endings. Then finally giving us the You Made Me Happy platinum trophy. Now for my first ever Silent Hill game, I was not expecting this to be the type of game where it focuses all on these psychological factors like depression, grief and guilt, with every character suffering from one of those feelings. I mean, I knew it was a horror game, but I was pleasantly surprised with what I experienced. The eeriness of the environments, each enemy had their own disgusting look that put chills down the back of my spine, the characters all having interesting backstories which further explain their stories over the course of the game, but at the same time they were very well balanced, making none of them feel out of place. Overall, a very solid entry into the Silent Hill franchise. Hopefully they plan to do more of these remakes in the future. Or maybe a new game in general perhaps. Now as always, if you did enjoy the video, make sure you like it and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts on this remake and what you liked about it, and if you do want another one in the future. Make sure you check out my previous videos that are live on the channel and join me next time as I tackle the punishing platinum that is Resident Evil 0. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun one, I can tell you that. Have a great rest of your day and I will see you in the next platinum playthrough.